All right. Hello, everybody. Today's review is going to be of a show called The Lincoln Lawyer. Now, originally, I had thought about doing this season to season, but I just decided that, yeah, I kind of changed my mind on that and just decided to binge watch it all because I just want to keep this going, and I had enough videos ahead of time anyway to put up between Instagram and YouTube that I was just like, I'm just gonna take the time to watch all three seasons and kind of just binge watch the show and get through it. And then when the new season comes around, hopefully I'm through most of my list anyhow for when season four comes about. But yeah, we'll see how much stuff I have added because I'm really just working my way through my long list of stuff that I have to do. Like I have a whole bunch of pages here now. I've honestly lost count. But yeah, I keep adding stuff. So, well, I think we'll just add the Lincoln Lawyer season four in there after the Bondsman on whatever page I'm on now. I can't even remember in my tiny little notebook. But yeah, today is all about the Lincoln Lawyer. I did like this show. Wouldn't really say I loved it, and sometimes I found myself kind of not completely like engaged in the show, but it was good enough that there were a lot of moments where I was like, "Oh my god, okay, this is happening. I'm gonna have to pay attention." But sometimes, I think season two was probably really, I don't know. Some of it felt like a lot of filler, but seasons one and three were really good. I found definitely kept me more engaged than anything. But I mean, it's not like I wasn't really paying attention. It's just sometimes I felt like I was off in my own world, even though I was watching the show. Um, but it is what it is. Yeah. So I guess we'll go over the cast list because quite a there's quite a few characters in this show that had like, even if they played like a tiny role, had a big part to play in the show. So we have Angus Sampson, who played Cisco Wachowski, I want to say is his name. He just went by Cisco for the show. Nobody ever called him by his last name, so I didn't really expect him to even have a last name in the show. At least not in the, yeah, you know what I mean. Sometimes they just have like a one namer. Manuel Garcia Rufo played Mickey Holler, who was the main character of the show, or at least it seemed that way. It was kind of a battle between him and Cisco, I guess, as to who could have really been the main character. Now, my favorite character throughout the show was Cisco. I do have to say, just just the way he carried himself, and yeah, um, just yeah, because he was like a detective in a sense, and I just like that role a little bit more than the lawyer role. So it was kind of nice that they had like a balance of, you know, that in the show, right? And he was also part of a bike gang before this life, and he left that, and then of course he has a debt to pay, and Mickey tries to pay it off for him, and then that gets into a whole mess of stuff with one of his old buddies from the bike gang, and yeah, there was a lot that happens in this show, but the main part of it was all about lawyers. Then we had Becky Newton as Lorna Crane, who was his most previous ex-wife, who was now getting together with Cisco, and they were, I don't know, it was kind of like an odd couple, but they just seemed to fit. I don't know, it just worked for the show. Then we had Jazz Ray Cole, who played Lizzie Lizzie Letts. That's right, and she was Mickey Holler's driver. So Mickey had a past with addiction, I guess pills, and I believe that Izzy was also addicted to a whole bunch of different stuff, I guess, including alcohol as well. Then we had Nev Campbell, who, oh my God, I didn't even recognize her in this show until I was just going through the cast list. I was like, that was Nev Campbell from Scream? You could have fooled me. She looked completely different in this show. So I'm thinking maybe she's had some work done. I mean, it is what it is. She just looked very different in this show compared to the movies. Even the most recent, like she was in one of the more recent Scream movies, and she looked very different in this compared to the movie, so it threw me off. But she played Maggie McPherson, who was Mickey Holler's first wife. So he has he has had two divorces, and it always seemed like him and Maggie were going to get back together throughout the show, especially in the first couple of seasons. And then it almost happens, and then she drops this big bombshell on him that she's going to this new job in a totally different city, and says that, she has to leave because it seemed that their cases always somehow interfered with one another. Even when she was trying to catch her perp in the second season, it somehow ended up involving, it somehow got mixed up with Mickey's case, and the one dirty cop that was helping out ended up being the cop that was, of course, helping Maggie, and it was just a huge mess between the two of them. Like, they always ended up seeming to butt heads. And then we had Yaya DaCosta, who played Andrea Freeman, who was on the other side of the table. So Mickey was, Andrea was a defense attorney, right? And Mickey was always, he was always protecting the killers, essentially, but I can't remember what they call that in lawyering. Oh my god. I guess he was defense too, right? So yeah, and then, or maybe I have that mixed up. Maybe he was the defense, and then, um, obviously, I guess the other would be the prosecution, right, or the prosecutors. So they were like for the people. The prosecution and the defense was Mickey. Yeah, I guess I had that backwards for some reason. Then we had, oh, my phone's falling. We had Krista Warner as Haley Holler, who was Mickey's daughter, and she was in a few episodes. Obviously, it seems like, they had their ups and downs as well, and she was, of course, always concerned about him, especially the way he went about things, because he definitely bent the law in quite a few episodes to get some stuff done. And then we had Christopher Graham, who played Trevor Elliott, who was the case that Mickey took on in the very first season. So I guess we'll talk about that before we go through any more of the cast. So in season 1, he takes on this celebrity case of, oh my god, I lost his name, of Trevor Elliott, who was this big game developer who was accused of murdering his wife and her so-called, I guess, lover, boyfriend, whatever. But so Trevor claims that he knew about this affair. He had claimed to Mickey, at least, that he was kind of being followed by these Russian mobsters who were supposedly going to be taking out, kind of had control of, I guess, his gaming company. Now, his wife, he always credited for some reason as that she was a big help in the gaming development and so on and so forth. But I guess that the biggest part of it that he took credit for was actually code that she had written. So of course, when the cops showed up, of course, after the whole case was done, and he got off free, and then eventually he's killed by the woman, or the wife of the man. No, I guess the other guy was a yoga instructor, if I'm remembering correctly. But I guess he had a wife too, or at least somebody that was really close with him throughout the entire show, and she ended up shooting Trevor point blank in the crowd, and of course, that's not going to go well. Obviously, she's going to get charged for murder now, and whether he was guilty or not, they kind of beat around the bush that he was. Now, it seems that the day that the cops showed up, he had packed the drone with the gun or whatever weapon he had used, and then just crashed it way out into the, I guess the ocean, would it be there where he was? I think. So yeah, that's how he ended up getting rid of the murder weapon so quick. And of course, he had claimed that he had just walked in and seen them both dead. And the defense was able to present a case where it might have looked like this other sniper had potentially maybe fired. That's what I was thinking, had fired into the building and killed them. But that was how they were able to determine that he had so much gun residue on him or whatever from the gun, gunpowder residue, I guess, essentially is what they were trying to claim. And then, of course, the cop car that this guy had shot off a whole bunch of rounds in the night before wasn't cleaned. And then, of course, Trevor sits in it, and that would have been how he got so much gun residue on him, right? To say that it was a crazy amount. Without firing a gun, how would you be able to get that much on you, right? Was the prosecution's story. And of course, Mickey's good enough at his job that he was able to get Trevor free, and then Trevor's going on to, well, what he thinks is going to be a pretty easy road ahead of him, I guess, because now he's gotten away with it, right? But of course, that's not exactly how everything went down, and I guess Trevor was somehow involved in Jerry's murder. So it was Jerry was the original lawyer for Trevor, or I guess attorney for Trevor, essentially is what I guess that's what they called him, yeah. Um, and Jerry was killed in a parking garage, and of course Mickey's trying to solve that, how Jerry was killed, at the same time as he's trying to figure out how he's going to get Trevor off free. And of course, Trevor wants to testify because he wants to be not guilty in the court, but not guilty in the people's eyes as well outside up, obviously, because he has a huge following because of his video game and so on and so forth. So he wants that to go well for him. Now, obviously, we know that he did it in the end, and him getting shot really wasn't that big of a deal because he did end up actually murdering them both. He was just able to get away with it in a very clever way. So yeah, then I guess now that we just discussed season 1, we'll go over season 2's cast, kind of. So Natari Guma Mabahau Mawine was Detective Raymond Griggs, who was reluctant to help Mickey in the first season, of course. And obviously Mickey was reluctant to help him because Mickey doesn't like cops. And it seems that Griggs really doesn't like lawyers. So they kind of butt heads a lot on a lot of things. And there's some stuff, obviously, that Mickey can't tell Griggs. And there's some stuff that Griggs is withholding from Mickey. So it's just, yeah, that was a whole mess between the two of them as well. But it kind of felt like they were kind of becoming a little bit more chummy at the end of the second season. But I don't think Griggs is really in the third season at all, that I remember. So the main person, or I guess the main client for Mickey in the second season was played by Lena Perella, who played Lisa Trammell. And then we had Elliot Gould, who played David Legal Siegel. I just realized that rhymed. It's kind of ironic that I didn't pick up on that. And yeah, that was the second season. So she was accused of murdering this business manager who was trying to take over the town and obviously put in like his buildings. And she had this restaurant that she owned that she'd been working at for a very long time, and she was accused of killing him. Now, obviously, we know that she wasn't actually the one who had done it. It ended up being I believe it ended up being the guy who was the cameraman that took the photo of her and this other guy fighting in the street, and then he was nowhere to be found. If I'm remembering correctly, I believe that's who they figured out that it was in the end. But then, of course, I think that was in the second season was when Maggie was trying to find this Angela Soto, and Mickey and hers cases got mixed up together, and he was taking the prosecution, of course, was this Andrea girl, and he ends up with her in the third season. But she was a tough battle for Mickey for sure, because he'd lost to her in court, I think 10 times already previously. So Mickey had to pull out all the stops because Andrea always seemed to be one step ahead. And I mean, luckily he was able to obviously get Lisa, you know, a not guilty at the end of the season. But he does discover that she had killed her ex-husband, or her husband at the ex now, because he's dead, right? And he realizes after he sees this photo of all these people at the restaurant, and he realizes, oh my God, this is the guy that was pretending to be her husband and showed up and wanted money from the case, right? Uh, and then he kind of puts two and two together, and he goes, so that was the real reason you didn't want anybody to come look at this land on your restaurant. That's why you fought so hard, and that's why you testified, and so on and so forth, because her husband is buried in the garden. So she had committed murder, maybe not of the person she was being accused, but she definitely had committed murder. And it was crazy because Mickey was falling in love with her and had slept with her before he had taken her case. So that was pretty wild, not gonna lie. And then the third season starts off with quite a bang. So Devin Gray, who played Julian Lacrosse, who was accused of killing, if you remember from a previous season, Glory Days, better known as Gloria Dayton. Um, and oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, so Julian Lacrosse was accused of killing her. And then we get a whole bunch of dirty cops in this season, so that was pretty crazy. Holt McCanny played Neil Bishop, uh, who was a former agent now working for the same office as Andrea's working in. Then we had Fiona Renee, who played Gloria Dayton, who was also in the previous season, and she was found dead at the very end of the second season. So that was pretty insane. And also in season 2, obviously Mickey had gained quite a bit of fame, and I think he let that kind of get to his head a little bit in the second season. He had gained fame from the Trevor case, even though Trevor was shot afterwards. I guess that doesn't really matter once you've gotten the non-guilty verdict, right? That was really what kind of got him back in the game, taking on the celebrity case, and then obviously it's going to get him more attention and more cases, right? So he was juggling quite a bit in the second season. And then obviously we find that Gloria Dayton is dead at the end of the second season, and that leads into the third season with somebody being accused of a murder that obviously didn't do it. He's being framed for it. And we had Alan Morian as Eddie Rojas, who was his daughter's friend, I guess, who was kind of out of a job, and so Mickey says to him, because Izzy's leaving, she's going to be opening her dance studio and so on and so forth. And so she's not going to be there permanently, right? She's going to be back and forth between the office and obviously working on like what she wants to do as her dream as well. So he hires Eddie. Unfortunately, Eddie gets, caught in the crossfire of what Mickey's doing and ends up getting killed because of it, which was unfortunate. And then, of course, Haley's really hurt by that because obviously her and Eddie were friends. So, of course, there's a whole mess with this cartel that, that, they're all messed up with. So Victor Moya, I believe, was the one that was controlling the cartel. There was two Moyas, I think, if I'm not mistaken. There was Hector Moya and Victor Moya, right? So yeah, the cartel runs deep, and obviously they sent protection for Mickey, and of course then this DEA agent comes back and fights that, tries to get this other guy tries to get his protection deported. So then Mickey has to call on Cisco's old biker gang to come in and help protect him as well. They were the something Saints. I can't remember exactly what it was, but anyway. Then Michael Irby played Agent James DeMarco, who was the DEA agent who had actually killed Gloria Dayton because of whatever she knew or had on him that could potentially take him down. And then, of course, he disappears after Neil Bishop takes a stand and testifies, and then Neil pulls a gun out and kills himself. I was like, oh, dude, like, doesn't that completely destroy any of your testimony? I mean, you've already said it So the jury's going to have it in their mind, right? That clearly, obviously, Julian isn't the killer, but you killing yourself, I think, strikes your whole testimony. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, but I believe that's what that does. So, yeah, it was just this whole season was just filled with some pretty crazy moments. And then, of course, it seems like everything's going well for Mickey. He's won his case. He's gotten Julian out of any more prison time. And of course, somebody was trying to kill Julian. Obviously, we kind of figure it's all DeMarco, right? By the end of the show. But, or by the end of the season anyway, we all figure that DeMarco's pulling some pretty heavy strings. And then, of course, I believe it was Hector Moya that sends them a picture of DeMarco hanging at the end of the season. So yeah, he's no longer going to be a problem. I guess we know why he's disappeared, because the cartel had caught up with him. So I guess we'll see where that goes, because at the very end of the season, there's a dead body in Mickey's trunk. I'm not going to tell you who, but yeah, watch that for yourself if you're interested in going to watch the show. But yeah, the pretty crazy ending when it seems like Mickey's going to go take a break, some vacation time, and then all of a sudden he gets pulled over by this cop who, I'm like, okay, this is going to be crooked as it is anyway, right? Um, like, it seems like that body was planted there and that cop pulled him over on purpose. I'm thinking somebody's still pulling some strings somewhere on Mickey. But I guess we'll see at the fourth season, which comes out soon, I guess, August, September, October, yeah, because we're almost done July. So yeah, it won't be long before the next season comes out and we can figure out exactly what's going to happen to Mickey, because now he's going to be the one who needs a lawyer, I think. But anyway, yeah, 7 out of 10 for this show if I didn't say it already. And of course, obviously that won't change when season 4 comes out. Once I've rated something, that's the rating that stays. Uh, for the most part anyway, unless I haven't watched it in a long time and something changes my mind about it. But yeah, 7 out of 10, and I guess I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.